Yo, what is going on, 5-9 Gaming? It's your boy Swift, and we are back with another Legends video. Before we jump in, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, drop a comment, all that good stuff. But yeah, today's topic on this video, we're going to be talking about the state of Zenkais, specifically the recent free-to-play Zenkais since Zenkais went free-to-play. And now we're obviously not talking about the LF Zenkais because I kind of like to separate the LF Zenkais and just regular sparking Zenkais. So we're not talking about like LF Zenkais like Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta and all those guys. Just specifically talking about the free-to-play regular sparking Zenkais. So what we want to talk about today, and by the way, I'm joined by the homie Battlemore. Say what's up.
Yo, what's up, everybody?
And so, like I said, the topic for today's video, we're talking about the recent free-to-play Zenkais, and kind of the pattern that I've been seeing is a lot of these free-to-play regular sparking Zenkais have been either more on the mid side, or some of them are just like flat out bad, like they're not even viable in PvP. Before we talk about specific units, do you have any thoughts on this topic, Battle?
I mean, I feel like the pattern here is like they buff certain tags that needs to be good, but once they know that tag has become way too powerful, once that new Zenkai comes that is supporting that, it's not going to be equally as good.
Yeah, I feel you on that. So like I said, I think for the most part, most of these Zenkais have been either mid or just like flat out bad. And I have a couple examples of the Zenkais that I think that just have not been that good. And then there is a few exceptions though, okay? So it's not like all of the free-to-play Zenkais are just horrible. There is a couple exceptions. So make sure to stay tuned towards the end of the video. We're going to start out talking about the Zenkais that have been bad. And then at the end of the video, we'll bring up the Zenkais that have kind of been the exceptions and some of the free-to-play Zenkais that are actually pretty good in my eyes. So the first Zenkai I want to talk about is this Fusion Android 13. We're not going to do like a full kit breakdown, but this guy, I've heard really, really bad things about this guy. I'm curious, Battle, have you tried this guy at all or no?
I have tried it, and I'm sorry to say that he almost feels worse than Rosé.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah,
the reason why is his base stat is almost literally less than Rosé, and he has nothing in his kit that helps him in any way to really shine. Like, yeah, sure, they give him Vanish Restore on green card, but that is like 60%, and he doesn't do the damage, man. He has no power inflicted, like, only for a certain amount of time accounts he's on the field. He needs to be on the field in order to do something for a few time accounts. But this meta, or any meta, especially when they want to do it quickly, it's not good.
Yeah,
it's not good.
I agree. If you look at Fusion 13, and then I do have Rosé pulled up here. I think the issue with these Zenkais is, number one, they didn't really go too crazy on the stats. I mean, if you look at the defenses aren't horrible, but the offenses are not that good for a Zenkai. Remember, we're not talking about just a regular sparking. These are Zenkai units. So, number one, I think offensively, the stats are not too special on 13 and Rosé. And number two, they didn't really go crazy with the buffs. And, you know, this is something I've talked about before with Rosé, is if they would have given this guy more buffs, like if you look down here in the uniques, I believe he only gets like where is it? I don't know where. I know he only gets like a little bit of a strike buff. It's okay. We don't have to go through the whole kit, but I just know that they didn't really give him anything too crazy buff-wise, and when you combine the fact that they don't really have the best stats and the fact that they don't have the proper buffs, they just don't really perform in this meta. I know me personally, when I use Rosé, I notice his defenses are decent. Like, actually, he has okay defenses, but it's the offenses that are the issue. Like, he really just does not do that much damage. And this is kind of the pattern we've been seeing. I've actually heard from a lot of people that Fusion 13 is worse than Rosé, so that's definitely not a good thing because Rosé is not that good.
Yeah, but also the reason why it's bad is because literally, you will not run Fusion Android 13 unless bench, because the new 17 and 18 tag unit came out.
Yeah.
And
yep.
This does not really help him at all, especially when his entire kit is almost just like a beat stick.
Yeah.
And he's not even that of a good of a beat stick, which is kind of bad. The only thing that is working with him right now is like his C ability, and for the fact that he's good on TOP. But
yeah.
I don't see him to being good in PvP at all. Because he literally, even with this defensive stats increase, it's not much, and the damage inflicted, he needs to be on the field, and this meta won't allow it.
Yeah,
literally,
and
you need to swap in order to survive, and this guy cannot take it, even though it says he won't tank more in their introduction of him, which, sure, but not enough. It is not enough in this meta.
Yeah, when you compare these free-to-play Zenkais to some of these newer units we've been seeing, I mean, even, it started off with, like, Blue Boys, and we move in with Ultra Gogeta, and now we got Ultra Kaioken, and the tag 17 and 18. These units are so ridiculously good. When you compare those units to these free-to-play Zenkais, you just can't compare it. They just don't compete. Now, the one thing I will say about 13, he does have a good Zenkai buff, Red Android, so obviously I think the majority of people are just going to use this guy to Zenkai buff 17 and 18, which is fine. But, when it comes to Rose, like, so with 13, the reason I think a lot of people weren't as disappointed as they were with Rose is because with Rose, Godkey actually needed a red unit. Really, Godkey's only red unit right now is LF Zamasu, who is seeing a lot of playtime in this meta, but I think Godkey really needed that red unit, and for me, for example, that's the reason I was so excited for this Rose. And when he came out, it was just a complete letdown. But yeah, so we got... go ahead.
Yeah, the only reason why people are talking bad about Rose, for first, his Zenkai ability doesn't buff Godkey at all. It's buffing powerful opponent.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. And sure, I understand why, but it was kind of Godkey that needed it. Also, the reason why they held back was because of the main ability that made him type neutrality. They did the same thing with the Zenkai Piccolo, the blue unit from Android Saga. He had the same main ability that gave type neutrality and more power-ups, but he was only a beat stick. He could not really do much to continue combo, except that he gets a card once he enters and 20 key. He could not tank for anything, all he did was damage. And this Rose usually are having a lot more kits. He doesn't even have blast armor or anything on the blue or the black ultimate. Which everyone was disappointed because when Rose came out, he was insane. And people used him all the time. And now that he got a Zenkai, everyone was so hyped up to use him again.
Yeah, when he originally came out, he was insanely good. And that's why I was kind of hoping for him to be really good with the Zenkai, but kind of like you said, they just didn't give him love, man. I mean, you look at this main ability, it's like nothing, dude. He restores health, he goes type neutral, that's about it. And then I know, and like I said, I don't want to turn this into like a full kit breakdown, but I know with the third and fourth uniques, which are the Zenkai uniques, they really didn't give him anything. I mean, this third unique right here is basically he restores ki when he swaps out, big deal. And then this fourth unique, this is what I was looking for earlier, was the 30% strike damage. That is not enough to compete in this meta, man. And I've tried to use Rose, and I can't tell you how many times I rush somebody and the rush doesn't even get the kill. Rose was extremely disappointing. But yeah, there's multiple of these free-to-play Zenkais that have just not been good. We got Fusion 13, we got Rose, we got Super Saiyan Kale, we got the green Super Trunks, and I'm sure there's more. These are just the ones I pulled up to talk about. But yeah,
the reason why they are not getting the love is because Trunks and Kale are actually Super Saiyan, and people are afraid that if Bardock helps them too much, they will not. They will be seen everywhere. It is the reason why they are afraid to buffing some units.
Yeah, that is a point. That is definitely a viable point to point out, is the fact that these guys are Super Saiyan. But I think more of it is just the fact that as soon as Zenkais went free to play, they stopped giving them the love that they needed. Back in the day, when Zenkais first came out, they were like 20,000 CC, right? And they were ridiculously good. And then eventually they turned Zenkais into they reduced the cost, and it was 7,000 CC, and they were still very, very good. There's a lot of Zenkais that were 7,000 CC that were extremely good when they first came out, like immediate Z tier or immediate like top of S tier, right?
Yeah, for example, Demon King Piccolo, like when he got a Zenkai, everyone was so crazy.
Oh yeah, him, Purple Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I mean, there's numerous Zenkais that were 7,000 CC, and they were just extremely good. And I think, and I do agree that, you know, these guys being Super Saiyan, that is maybe like a possibility of why they didn't, you know, show a lot of love. But that's really no excuse for Rose, Fusion 13, and there is multiple other Zenkais that I'm not talking about here that have just not been good since the free-to-play. And I really do think the reason behind it is the fact that they know they're not really making any money off of these. I mean, you know, they drop the free-to-play Zenkais, and it's just an event that you have to grind. I mean, you're not spending any Chrono Crystals. Yeah. And I think that's the main reason a lot of these Zenkais have not been that good.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on Kale? I mean, I know you use female warriors more than I do. Is Kale even usable? I mean, what do you think about Kale?
I mean, Kale is usable, but only to tank.
Okay.
She has no damage whatsoever. But she can tank, but the problem with her is her team doesn't really help her.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. And even Super Trunks, I mean, I've seen people with really good hybrid setups try and use Super Trunks, and there might be, you know, certain situations where he can perform well, but for the most part, I have not seen anything like too special from this guy.
The reason they held back on Super Trunks so much, it was ridiculous. Even when his third kit says, like, after end of combo, he gains ki, I was like, what?
Yeah, where he gains ki when the enemy combo's over. Yeah.
Why isn't that when after your combo is over? That should be the thing.
Well, it almost doesn't make sense, because when the enemies, when you're taking damage from, like, when the enemy's in the middle of a combo, you're gaining ki anyways, right? So it's almost kind of pointless.
Also, it's kind of restricted too, because he needs an ally to die in order to gain all the buffs he needs.
Yeah. And if you're running hybrids and you're running like FSK, FSK is already your last man standing, right? Yeah. So it's kind of a struggle between this guy and FSK.
So they just made another beat stick that wasn't really a beat stick. I mean, I understand why they held back on this Trunks 100% because of the feints he has on his kit. But I cannot understand Kale, Rose, Android 13. I cannot understand.
Yeah.
Like, androids needed the buff. Like, why did they hold back on Fusion Android 13?
Yeah, I agree. And it probably is something to do with, like, they probably knew that they were dropping 17 and 18. But even that, I mean, that's no excuse, dude, because people, you know, some people don't, like, chase every single unit. Some people don't chase every single banner. Like, you know, some of us are, like, Dolphins or / free-to-play players, and, you know, we don't really chase everything. So, you know, 17 and 18 drops, they're really good, that's fine, right? But I think the free-to-play option, you know, obviously they're not going to be as good as 17 and 18, but they really need to start showing more love for these free-to-play Zenkais, because there's a big chunk of the player base that is free-to-play or, you know, kind of like a Dolphin. And I think having good free-to-play units makes the community happy, right? Yeah, like, I really think it makes the community happy.
Yeah, the Zenkais are not good for the free-to-play, but once you gave a free-to-play unit, why are they feeling much better than the Zenkai? It should be, like, similar, not that the free-to-play unit should be a lot better than the Zenkai unit.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, you're saying, like, the free-to-play units that were not Zenkai that have came out. Yeah. I agree with that for sure. Like, if you look at the recent yellow Trunks that came out, he's ridiculously good. We had the free-to-play Frieza. We had the free-to-play Green 18. Those were all actually really good units for being free-to-play. And I agree, they need to keep these Zenkais on the same level.
Yeah, and we have free-to-play Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta. Like, Vegeta did crazy damage while Goku tanked.
Yeah.
Like, they had some crazy kits in them, and that helped them a lot. I don't understand why it needs to hold back on the Zenkais. I understand some bit, because be toxic in the community, but it shouldn't be this much.
Well, imagine if they made Red Rosé like better. It would have made things a lot, like, for all the people that are like annoyed with Ultra Goku, even myself, I recognize Ultra Kaioken Goku can be extremely annoying to fight against, right? If they would have made this Red Rosé better, it would have given people a tool to deal with Ultra Goku, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, it shouldn't be that broken, but if the unit you can't even barely damage normal units, I feel like it's way too small of a buff.
Oh yeah, and that's the argument we're making here, is a lot of these Zenkais are either completely not usable in this meta, or if you want to use them, you can't. Like, there's a couple, like, you know, maybe Red Rosé, there might be situations he does decent, right? But for the most part, I think a lot of these free-to-play regular sparking Zenkais have just been flat out, like, you're not going to see them in PvP, you're not going to use them in PvP, and if you do use them in PvP, you're just putting yourself at a disadvantage. So the concluding thought here, before we jump into the couple exceptions that I think that are actually decent, the concluding thought here, I think, is these free-to-play Zenkais, for the most part, have just been not that good since they went free-to-play. And like I said, I think the reason for that is just the fact that they are free-to-play. They're not showing as much love in the kits as they used to when they were premium Zenkais. So I think that's, for the most part, the reason. But like I said, there is a couple exceptions here. The first one I want to talk about is the yellow death buff Goku. I think this guy is actually phenomenal. This is like one of the free-to-play regular sparking Zenkais that have came out. That he's kind of like a shining light. I mean, he's really good. He does decent damage. He's got card draw speed. He's got the death buffs. He's got the sub count manipulation. I actually think they did a fantastic job with this free-to-play Goku.
Yeah, 100%. Like, he is controlling the rush, like, 100%. Like, if someone rushes, you can easily swap back into him because it's reduced by 10 count. And yeah, this Goku really supports the team a lot because it makes you sure, like, you will not be defeated easily and it will support your team. This is what even though his stats is not as good, but he does his job.
Yeah.
That is the point of the Zenkais. They should do their job once they get the Zenkai, what they are trying to do, what they are trying to be meaningful, what they are trying to expect of the unit.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. This guy definitely does his job. It's like a different form of Rising Rush control, you know, instead of Endurance and Revival, you just have this Goku where as soon as the enemy rushes, he reduces his sub count by 10, and you can just immediately swap into him and pick up those death buffs. So I think this is the first Zenkai the first free-to-play Zenkai that I think they did a really good job here with this guy. Now the next one I want to talk about is the full power Frieza with the Endurance. Do you have any thoughts on this guy?
This guy is a beast, 100%, because he reduces ki when he covers. He also has endurance, he can control the field, he can tank, and his blue card nullifies endurance. So I don't see anything bad with this dude. Even if they held back of his strike and blast stats, of base stats, but his team is so good to support him, he doesn't need it. Yeah,
I agree. And look at these defenses, man. And I think he has... I'm not actually sure. I think he has damage cut in his kit somewhere. But look at his defenses, bro. I mean, dude, his blast defense is almost 200k. I mean, that is crazy. And you combine how good this guy is with the fact that LOE is just one of the top tier teams right now. And I think for the most part, most people bring the yellow LF full power Frieza instead of this guy. But if you have this guy on the bench, then you have an endurance option, you know? And a lot of times I'll fight LOE teams where they bring this guy, they bring the blue Revival Frieza, and it's just really hard to use your rush. They're constantly taking your Dragon Balls away. I do think they did a fantastic job with this Zenkai, so this is definitely one of the exceptions for the free-to-play regular sparking Zenkais.
Yeah, 100%. Like, he does help the team so much. He does even have the powerful opponent tag, so even if you don't run in on LOE, you can just run in powerful opponent if you just want to test things out. So you have an endurance unit to survive. Like, he can tank most of everything.
And this guy's got the best of both worlds. Like, we were talking about how, like, you can use Fusion 13 to Zenkai buff 17 and 18, which is cool. You know, that's obviously a plus of Fusion 13. But this Final Form Frieza, he kind of has the best of both worlds, where he is Zenkai buffing the yellow LF Frieza, so that is a plus. And he's actually good in battle, so he's got the best of both worlds. So I think this is definitely
what we were expecting. That is what we was expecting once this unit came out, like helping the team.
Yeah, this guy extremely helps LOE, and like you said, powerful opponent. I mean, I run into a lot of powerful opponent teams, and you know, this guy's either always on the bench to Zenkai buff the yellow LF Frieza, or you know, it just gives the team an endurance option. So I think this is one of the Zenkais they did a fantastic job with. Now,
crazy good.
The next one I would talk about is Purple Zamasu, and even though we don't see him in PvP that much these days, I still think they did a good job with this guy's Zenkai kit. They actually they didn't really give him too much, but
Okay, first, let me talk about this one. First, we were not expecting to get this unit to get a Zenkai. There are so many other units that could have got a Zenkai, because he was still decent.
Yeah.
But when this guy got a Zenkai, everyone was like, what? Really? Really?
Yeah, it was definitely a surprise.
It was a big surprise, and dude, he did not need anything for his kit, really. All he needed was a good base stats, and everything was perfect.
And honestly, I guess you could kind of separate Death Buff Goku and Full Power Frieza from Zamasu, because like you said, Zamasu like really wasn't too horrible. He was just one of those units. They gave him a Zenkai. They didn't really have to give him that much, and he actually performed really well in PvP. So the reason I bring him up is just because he is a free-to-play regular sparking Zenkai, but I think Death Buff Goku and Final Form Frieza are examples of the developers actually showing love to the Zenkai kit, and then I think Zamasu is just an example of a decent free-to-play sparking Zenkai. So they're kind of different, but I did want to bring him up because I do think he was a pretty impactful free-to-play sparking Zenkai. So definitely a very good Zenkai here.
100%.
But yeah, I think Death Buff Goku, Full Power Frieza. You could probably throw like Purple Chilled up here too. There's been a couple exceptions for the free-to-play Zenkais that they're actually decent, but I think for the most part, like I said, the pattern that we've been seeing is most of the free-to-play regular sparking Zenkais have either been mid or just completely unusable.
Yeah, and for those who are good, like for example Fusion Zamasu, Death Buff Goku, Final Form Frieza, Chilled, Purple 21.
Yeah, Purple 21.
Also everything. So yeah, I feel like they should focus on more of buffing the units more than holding them back. I understand why, but you are not holding back on the LFs and the new units. Why are you holding back on the Zenkais? I don't understand.
Yeah, that's the issue, is they drop these ridiculous units, insanely good, 17 and 18 Ultra Goku, Ultra Gogeta, even Blue Boys were just insane on release. They're dropping these ridiculous units, and then meanwhile, they pump out these free-to-play Zenkais that, for the most part, you know, besides the couple exceptions we talked about, for the most part, these free-to-play regular sparking Zenkais they're just not going to keep up in the meta with these new units that are coming out. But yeah, I think that about covers it. We didn't cover every, there's probably multiple other examples I could put up here for, the Zenkais that are not that good. I only pulled up a couple here, but there is probably other examples that we could talk about. But, like I said, for the most part, I think Zenkais are just kind of on the pattern right now that they're not that good, the free-to-play sparking Zenkais. Now, the LF Zenkais are obviously really good. The green Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta is phenomenal. But I think that's just a different conversation. We're trying to focus on the regular sparkings here. But yeah, I mean, do you have anything, let's say, Battle, if the developers see this video, do you have anything you want to ask for future Zenkais?
I mean, if you're future Zenkais, if you really want to make the units usable, if not by kit, at least by base stats.
Yeah.
Like, I understand if you just want the units to be kind of normal and not way too broken, but there should be a balance here, if that is to say. If you're not going to give like damage inflicted or pure damage or anything in the kit, at least give them base enough so you can actually have equipment, prepare them for what they can do, then you at least can farm up to that.
Yeah, I agree. They need to one way or another, they need to show some more love to these free-to-play regular Sparking Zenkais, because like we talked about, they're dropping ridiculously good units, and it's back to back to back. The power creep lately has been insane. So for free-to-play players, I think it would really, really help if they started showing a little bit more love in some of these kits, or like you said, just the base stats alone. And like you said, they don't have to be completely busted, right? That's not what I'm asking for. They don't need to be, top of Z tier or anything like that. They just need to, I think they just need to show a little bit more love to these free-to-play Zenkais, man. Because like I said, I think it really would make, it would make the community happy. It would make free-to-play players. I mean, I think it would make everybody happy. Even whales, I think it would make, I just think it would make everybody happy. If these free-to-play Zenkais were just a little bit more viable. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, but I think that about covers it. I think, we kind of talked about everything I wanted to cover here. Hopefully in the future, they show a little bit more love to these free-to-play Sparking Zenkais, and I'm sure the LF Zenkais are gonna continue to be really good. But I do hope they show a little bit more love to the regular Sparking Zenkais. But
yeah, and with the anniversary soon here, guys, in less than a month soon, be ready. I hope everything is going well with this.
Yeah, 100% save your CC. We got anniversary coming. The power, like I said, the power creep lately has been absolutely insane. So I almost guarantee, whatever's coming on anniversary is going to be nuts. But yeah, with that being said, I think we covered everything here. Like I said, make sure hit that like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And with that, we're going to go ahead and head out. Peace out, guys.
Peace.